Hello,
just gonna
Navid.
let Navid speak because he's been waiting very
Hello
patiently
there.
Hi, Navid.
Yeah, I mean, what more can I add to that? There's all the things that needed to be said was said, and I saw the discussion in your Discord yesterday about stuff that was about things being said about, like, yeah, this was already done. They cut it from the main game.
I believe
whatnot.
Tori. Tori's.
I believe them.
I know.
I believe
mean,
Tori.
There are sides.
They
to
maybe
it.
had
No,
like
listen.
some base system
And Teos told you that as
experimentation
well.
with it, but I do
Yeah.
believe that
Yeah,
like
and-
this was
Yeah,
developed
there are
after
things
the
to
game
that.
launched.
If
There
their
are different
tools,
aspects.
if their tools are that much improved where they can iterate and come up with stuff that quickly, which I don't have any reason not to trust Tori. He's never
The thing
like
is,
you know.
they use the
No,
peer-to-peer
I mean-
system, so they didn't develop like a separate
yeah,
peer-to-peer
yeah,
system.
yeah,
They
yeah.
essentially had
No,
to
I mean,
develop
that's-
like a separate
That's
game
what
mode
I'm trying
and
to get
attach
to.
like stuff onto it, and that's fine. It not too
Um,
surprising that
that's
it
what
didn't take
I'm-
them a lot of time to create it. But yeah, go Navid. Say or
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, like, there are different aspects to it. It's like you can say that yeah, this was something that was done completely after the game was launched. From an engineer's point of view, maybe the idea came to you to do this right after the game launched, and it was not planned to be released like this. But the framework for this has like, you had to have this ready before the game launch for you to be able to carry this out like this. It's like all the peer-to-peer connections, the multi-team structure and framework needs to be there, and like everything that goes into the technical aspect of it has to have been done beforehand for this to be able, like, for you to be able to like realize this. And if you have done that already, it means that your engineers actually foresaw something like this, so that they put in place the stuff that needed to be put in place, so that making something like this is easy. So of course, I mean, I would believe when they say that this is something that we did like after the game was released from scratch. I look at it as like, okay, so the idea is like, hey, we have this framework in place. Do we have like this or that? There's like, oh yeah, we have it actually. And then, okay, so let's put together something like this and release it. And that I believe. The part that I cannot accept is that if the infrastructure for this feature was not part of the game initially, and they just like coded it in less than a month, that's like, yeah, I know how this works, and that's not how it works. No.
So are you more, because you bring that up, and that's all well and good. Are you more? My main concern is you shouldn't be charging us for game modes like that.
Absolutely, it's like yeah. if you're talking like, that was the technical aspect. If you're talking pricing and stuff, I'm like why even like why even consider this as a DLC? It's like, why is it even a DLC? I mean,
yeah, well, I'm gonna agree with Magic on that. He basically said it is Steam, or
in
maybe
their opinion.
Yeah. Any update to any product is a DLC. Technically, it is a DLC as far as downloadable content. It is. But the problem is, what we are expecting is, we're expecting this. This is DLC.
No. That's not necessarily like.
No, that's not.
I
that's
think like
not
PGI in the past had game modes in Mercs lock behind DLCs. They see this not as an expanded player versus player functionality. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They see this
I think
as an expanded game mode,
yeah.
essentially, and as a new functionality. So they treat it like in the
Yeah,
same way.
and I didn't have that
past
perspective.
DLCs.
I didn't realize that too, but I think it feels different just because in Mercs you're gonna use that game mode like all that, like throughout like the hundreds or thousands of hours you're putting into it. Maybe that's just sort of different But yes, they did. Like again, Beachhead, what was the infiltration and stuff like that, and so forth. So again, I can see that, but it just doesn't fit the.
I mean, there are multiple things again into this one as well. It's like, first, I just would consider this as an update to the game. But if you want to make it a DLC, $20. You have to look at what costs $20 in the DLC market on Steam to know how ridiculous it is.
Well, dude, we had $70 mech packs still. Like that. I mean, again, and that's another aspect for MWO, which is completely out of touch. But for this one, I'm gonna get a drink. You guys keep talking.
Like $20 DLC, like you have to look at like what's available as DLC for $20 on for various different games to see like why this is receiving this has a negative reception. Because
I mean, you have skins like labeled as a DLC for $15. You know, like technically they kind of delivered on that part with the.
That's worse.
You know,
Magic. If that's worse. Skins are cosmetics. Skins are not a feature.
If you go to Steam,
if you go to
Steam and look under certain games, it will be listed as a DLC. Even though it's cosmetic pack. I can show you examples.
I know.
I can show you so many examples.
Like, I'm not arguing over terminology. Like that's not at all the point. It's like if you want to price a skin pack, call it whatever. DLC, update, whatever you want to call it. If you price a skin pack for like $2 billion, I'm fine with that. Why? Because it's a skin pack. You don't need to buy it. A gameplay feature. It's like you're advertising it as like PvP DLC whatever, and it's not even like a server browser, because right like an hour ago in the MW5 Discord, I'm seeing people are saying that, where's the server browser? Like, is there a queue? And
I knew that was gonna happen. I so much predicted. I talked about this as well.
Dude, and I responded to the guy that, no, dude, there's no server browser. There's no queue. You need to have a friend and you need to host and invite it. And dude was like, wait, there's no server browser? And I'm like, no, there's no server browser. Like, what did you? And this guy was like, but it says PvP, and I'm like, yes, it's technically PvP, but that's how it is. That's how it works.
They treat it as a game mode.
I'm telling you. I know.
It as a game mode.
I know.
Even if you go to Steam right now,
listen,
it's
I
not
know. Even
as a
like,
PvP.
Listen, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like the game mode, because it is a game mode. It's an arena game mode and a horde game mode. It's two game modes. The difference here is that they highlighted PvP. They made it to be the title, because it's just like I would say like a free-for-all in the arena game mode framework. It's sort of like the main thing is the arena game mode. The PvP side of it is that your friend can connect in and we can assign them to different teams in the arena. So that's basically the core of it is the game mode. It's not the PvP side.
Exactly.
But they sort of like made the PvP as the title, which is actually leading to some people reading it in a different light and asking, where's the server browser? Where's the queue? Because they're looking for a PvP, and it was like, dude was like, I can't find the available servers, and I'm like, dude, there's no available servers. It's just you need to host the game.
What's the funny thing? Like, same with the Mech 5 Mercs, for example. They had the Solaris DLC, and they had a Solaris game mode that was also locked, as a game mode behind the DLC. together with the new chassis and like a small storyline campaign as well. It was also voiced. So they essentially treated this the same way they treated all of the other Mech 5 Mercs DLCs. And now they're kind of scratching their head as to like why people are making a problem out of it. But once you include like I feel like you have a big point about talking about PvP. People have way different expectations than like what PGI was planning to design here and like what they ended up delivering. Like,
so I guess the real question
when you
is,
announce like just a second, when you announce like a PvP as a part of your game, like even as a DLC, like Navid gave one example of that guy. He opens the start screen. There is none of that. Like where is my PvP? You know, like what do I click? Like what is happening? You know, there is no instant action game mode like even from the first screen where you will invite people. It's part of the sim pod, and much like in Mech 5 Mercs where like Solaris was a select place on the map or select places where you could fight other mechs. They listed as a game mode within the game itself. So they don't. I feel like they don't even.
So
consider
why?
This as PvP.
So okay. So I think I understand that. I think a lot of people do. So you asked me earlier, are you okay with it? Like, so what's the disconnect here? Like product Mercs, you're okay with it versus this.
The pricing is the disconnect.
I mean,
and
is that the disconnect, or is it like this?
Is that the disconnect?
Or is it this shouldn't be?
Just one thing. Imagine if this was just a second, Phil and Navid. If this had like a single player story content attached to it that was, let's say, 5 hours long, would this be fine with you?
I wouldn't. No, anything locked in the sim pod, I think, is absolutely just like.
Even though we had like lock modes in Mech 5 Mercs as well.
Sim pod, man. I think the difference is you could just go and anything sim pod, I think, is absolutely crazy, considering there's nothing there right now. There's nothing there. It like in the game.
Yeah, but if you look at Mech 5 Mercs, there was so many lock modes
so
as well,
we're not talking about Mercs right now. We're talking about clans. So right now you can replay the missions you've already done, and then which is cool. I like that. It's got advanced parameters, stuff like that. But you go to Simpod and it's literally shooting range and whatever, and then it's just empty, and you're like, oh man, that's
just hinting at the lack of replayability. Okay, I
no, but it's like, hey, there's other things to do. You can go, like.
I have a question. Like, where do you think can?
Hey, hold on,
like,
1 second.
Imagine.
Naveen, 1 second. Knocked, guys. I want them here. I appreciate Magic's and Navid and everybody's opinions. That's why I asked them here. And every once in a while, we have basically a live podcast like this that we just talk. So if you don't like live podcasts, talking about maybe sometimes the same thing for, however many hours, totally get it. But I don't mind. I talk enough on a day-to-day basis. Letting some other people talk
I think this
isn't
is
a bad
important.
thing.
I
do too. No,
important
but I as well. I wish I could have done this, but again, I was gone because I had family stuff come up. So it's like, it's one of those, it's a great discussion. My thing is, I pointed out, and for those that are tuning in, this just shouldn't be behind a paywall. I don't mind mechs being behind a paywall, but this shouldn't be. Does Phil have a hair in his belly button? I do not. Above and below, though, yes, but not much above. It's just, that's the only thing I'm fundamentally disagreeing here, is that this shouldn't be anything Simpod related, where you as a player are going through the campaign. This is a part of your base campaign. The campaign didn't change. So I look at it as game mode or not. I look at it as this is accenting your campaign. Get me to come and play through the campaign. Does this attract me to do so? No, this would not attract me to come and play your game again, like me personally. But if you made other changes and the campaign, you introduced systems like what you were talking about, okay, cool. But there's nothing fundamentally the same. The same mechs you killed before are going to be the exact same mechs you did before. Nothing changes. So for me, that's where I was saying earlier, it feels disconnected, because the modes in Mercs were like, oh, here's a planet that has this game mode. I can play it. Oh, here's the game mode, and this I can do this. I can all this. Whereas this is you have the story, and this is like it's disconnected. Other than XP, that's the only thing that really connects you in here. The PvP thing is cool, but again, it shouldn't be behind a paywall. I also feel like Horde mode should be in the sim pod, PvP as well, and then maybe just instant. I don't know, whatever. But it's just one of those things where. And then that way, by the way, Magic, if you also had PvP in the instant action mode, you could then disconnect the players.
I disagree with PGI. Like PvP and Horde mode should have been separate of the campaign.
Okay,
but
so
that's my opinion.
Yeah,
you know,
so.
that's just my thing.
So
but I understand why they did it like within the sim pod and why they're treating it as a game mode. Like,
sure.
I
just
Solaris
don't think
was a game
it
mode
feels
in
weird.
Five Mercs is a part of the DLC.
It feels
it
disconnected.
Is incredibly weird. It is incredibly weird, but it's.
I'm not going to use the word scummy because I don't think it's scummy. I think it's, as Magic points out, and I pointed out that I was like, I don't. So you shouldn't have to pay for arena mode. You shouldn't have to pay for a friends v friends mode, by the way, because it's not MechWarrior Online. Charge me, ask me $10.99 or $9.99 for the hero mechs. Some people are gonna buy it, and hey, enjoy the holidays. And I hope some of you guys come back to play the game. And then, oh hey, 6 months down the road, here's a big fat DLC that actually warrants the like mercs. But for me, again, that's just how I feel about it. But Navid, I got to make a PB&J. I have to cut out dairy for 2 weeks. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I legitimately was like, oh well, I can't eat that. I can't eat that. So I'm gonna have
what?
Anything dairy. I gotta cut out dairy for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Put cheese on everything.
Dude, I'm like, why did I agree to this? I guess I can eat a lot or drink a lot of beer. They didn't say no beer.
I mean, isn't there like a lot of like fake cheese out there? Like essentially not cheese, but.
Oh, I'm sure. You know, but we have legit cheese here. Not all Americans are savages, okay? You know, like. And are you saying American cheese isn't real cheese, sir?
No,
is that what you're saying?
But there's plenty of like
good. That was a good save.
Tree
that was a good save because I was gonna say something about American cheese.
Look, sir. It's delicious on a grilled cheese. If you've never had it on a grilled cheese, it's pretty damn good. All right.
Magic is like, do you even eat cheese? Like, really?
Do you even, bro? All right. I'll be right back.
All right.
Believe it or not, we import cheeses.
Yeah, that's
fine. Okay, I am not good at talking here, so give me a second to figure this out. And this is going to be more confusing because obviously modding is not an option on consoles. So, but when it comes to the PC side, when mod tools become available, someone's going to come out with a better Horde mode. It's going to be the Horde mode they have, plus it's going to have, you know, you're building up currency, you're dropping down defenses, all this other stuff. So you've immediately wiped out the value of this DLC right there. Do you think that the devs should look ahead and be like, hey, there's going to be mods for this game. We don't want to put a money value on something that is not going to have any value 3 months down the road, or 4 months, or whenever mod tools come out.
I mean, it's kind of up to the company, but it's less about that and more about like if they're gonna have a problem with that or not. Like from the past experience, it seems that PGI didn't really necessarily have a problem with that. Like one could develop like their own game mode, like using some of the systems that have been developed, and that they were fine with it. Or unless, like, let's say, if a specific system is locked, that they can use it anyway. Like we had people design something very similar to this, like PvP mode in Mech 5 Mercs. I haven't heard like much buzz around it anyway, but people played it and they did fine with like all of the problems that come with like its setup and with no balance and whatnot. So like if it's coming from there, I don't think it would be a major problem. Like you can look at it like from the value perspective, but is someone really going to develop like a PvP mode for the game that hasn't like released mod tools like that fast for that to even be a problematic consideration? I don't think so.
I'm just coming at it from the point of, in the future, they're putting out, they're making you want to spend money on something that has no value in the future. There's none. Like it's going to be purely for the skins, and I don't think there's $20 of chassis value there. That's a different argument entirely.
Yeah. For this one, the problem that I have with this package is that one, it's that game mode for money that I don't like.
It happened so many times though, Navid.
I don't like it.
Like so many times. And like the thing
like
that freaking annoys me is that now that we got a PvP quote unquote game mode, people are raising like issue over it. And in Solaris, I can go from DLC
there are multiple
to
things.
DLC,
there are multiple
like,
things
literally,
magic.
and like name game modes that
the
were
things
released
that
are also locked behind a paywall.
It's like there's an S there. It's like the things that I don't like is that one, is that it's a game mode for a price and there's nothing else. Then it's that it's marketed as PvP when it is game modes. Like PvP is not the.
It is.
I mean PvP is not the. I mean PvP is not the cover. The cover is game modes, and they support PvP. Like one of the modes, like the arena mode
that supports PvP. I get that. I get that.
The arena mode supports PvP, and the PvP side of it is that you can actually set different mechs to different teams. That's the PvP side of it, of course. That's the modes. The game mode for $20 for me is an issue. It's like $7 would have been fine.
Are you
$20?
See a price? You see a price attached to it. Okay.
$20. I mean, when I see a $20 DLC,
it was $15. Like it was discounted now.
I mean,
it was like
after this sales period passes, it's gonna be $20. It's like when I see a $20 DLC, I expect some story. I expect some major change into something, and I expect like stuff.
So just to make this clear, you're fine with it having a price, but you're not fine with price being $20. Like
yes, it needs to make sense. Like if you go to the store page of the game right now, it's not like this is just the only DLC that's available for the game. It's like there are other DLC packages in there as well. It's like there's like a collector's content, like invasion mech patterns, and they're all like priced. Like the digital collector's content is like $40 or something. Or am I right? Am I wrong or not?
It's 23 now, but it's 28. Oh well. Yeah, it's roughly 40.
Yeah, it was $29.99, right?
Yeah, so it's $40. It's $40. I'm actually reading it in Canadian dollars. Forgive me, but that's it's like it was expensive, right? It's just that okay. So I bought it because I think it added some stuff that I would have liked. I think there was like some mech omnipods that was in there, and I forgot what there was like digital art book or like music tracks, which kind of weird, which was like only in the game, but again they did it for consoles. There are some actual extras in there that I was like, okay, so this makes sense. This other one for $20, and I'm like, okay, so what's in it? I'm looking at the mechs, and I'm like, the mechs are not really that amazing because everything that I have in the game, like, it's far superior to whatever these mechs are. They're basically MWO heroes, and they're not going to add anything to what I run. Maybe like 2 of them or so add something that would increase the power of a mech or something like that, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, the campaign doesn't change at all. You wouldn't approach the campaign any different other than just the mechs and the loadouts.
Yeah, the campaign will play exactly the same. It's just that it all comes down to 2 game modes. And those two game modes, I don't think I would pay $20 for it, but I would pay $7-10 for it. Fine.
So
especially when there's only
it's more of a price.
So I think there's two things.
I understand that approach.
Magic, I think it's a few things.
In my opinion, it's either like no price, or like after that
Sure.
point, even if it's $1, it doesn't matter. It's locked behind.
Yeah,
the paywall.
because basically what we're saying is
like technically
we're okay. I'll forgive. Like it's basically like if the price is low enough, I'll just sort of forgive that the idea that I have to pay for it anyways. Like so, I may think I shouldn't have to pay for that, but it's low enough to where I'll just sort of let it pass. That's sort of my issue with the games industry in general, is it's basically made it to where content that should be free, developers are asking you to pay for, and people do. It's just if it's priced accordingly. Notice how you guys said, well, it's on sale right now, or this just came out. Well, it's not really $20, it's $15 or $16, whatever it is. My thing again stands is you shouldn't be paying for game modes that it doesn't add the replayability like it does Mercs. And I think you're correct, Magic. I think PGI was just looking at it just like Mercs. It's just, in my opinion, it's just not the right call, because this isn't a replayability game. You can't go across. You're literally, nothing changed in the campaign. There's no additional missions. There's no additional options other than this arena mode that helps you, by the way, because it's a grind to get your XP values, because they put so much emphasis on evasion and so forth and so on, and the mech skills, and which is all catered around grind and playing a lot, which again is fine, which means this should be a part of the base game. You shouldn't have to pay for it. And I do think people, if the price is right enough, are willing to basically forgive. Also, some people just are financially, they're like, it's $20, what are you guys bitching about? Like literally, and I get that. I can understand. But not everybody's have $20. But then also on principle alone, you just came out with this. Maybe it was quickly iterated on and it's out. Clearly needs a lot more time in the oven. If you would have said, like maybe this would have came across a lot different if the value was there. But again, I feel like anything in the sim pod that is a helping the single player experience, which is the campaign, anything in the sim pod should not be charged for.
Yeah, I mean, I have something to say about that aspect of it that you're saying. When you're charging money for two game modes like this, you can't just put it in a sim pod like a menu item, like you've installed some mod for your game and then okay, so go there and find it. It needs to be integrated into some form of the campaign. Like it needs to come at a point that you unlock these like horde modes. For example, let me just give you an example.
Navid,
let me just give you an example.
New maps and whatnot for horde modes unlock as you progress through the campaign.
Okay, so
I'm just saying.
Hear me out. Like you've played the game, and I've played multiple playthroughs to actually like one for having fun, just as you would normally play. But other playthroughs I did to actually see what is the maximum level of cheesing that you can do, what's the maximum level of upgrades that you can have, like what's the maximums of everything that you can do. And there's one thing that was basically clear to me, is that there's no way currently in the game that you can absolutely max out your research options to upgrade every weapons in the game, upgrade every mech system in the game. There's no way. There's simply like no enough salvage points, not enough like missions to continue, and you can't do it. It can't be done. There's not enough of that. But if you want to sell these game modes, it would be fine if you integrate it into some form of the campaign. That, for example, there is a part in the campaign, I don't want to do spoilers here, but I'm imagining like everyone has already played. There's one part of the campaign when there's a time skip. In that time skip period, you can actually implement it, slot this in as something that you can just repeatedly do, or becomes available as part of the campaign, that you can grind salvage points for your research options. so that you can actually upgrade most of your weapons and most of your equipment before you reach the end of the mission, because there are a lot of stuff there's a lot of I would say bloat in the research option, research stuff that you can do to upgrade your stuff, and a lot of it are so minor and so sort of insignificant, but they cost the same amount of research and stuff, and you're okay, so why is it even there? It's just a trap. People wouldn't normally do this, and you basically slot these game modes inside the campaign framework. That okay, so now there's downtime in the campaign in terms of the story, and there's this horde mode or arena mode, simulator stuff that you can actually go there and grind, and you can actually implement it in a way that it feels connected to
they can't add the sim pod to resources.
No, not sim pod, include this as a repeatable
place on a planet,
repeatable mission in the campaign, and you give the player a trigger so that they can progress and go to the time skip end that all the other stuff happens after that time skip. So within that framework, you would, because inside this story we actually have this context that within that time skip, they've been just controlling the planet, they've been suppressing resistance movements here and there, and securing stuff to make sure that this planet is safe, whatever, for the stuff that's going to happen down the line, a year from the time skip. So you slot these things in. The arena mode is just to keep you prepared and on your toes and battle ready and whatnot, and the horde mode is basically you can slot it in as some form of securing a base or defending a base from resistance, that sort of thing, because it fits within the context of what you're doing. This, and then you tie extra salvage parts that you need for your research items inside of these. This is fine. This feels connected to the campaign, and it actually adds something to the game. There are a lot of stuff that you can't do right now in the game in a single playthrough, but with something like this you can. Adding it just to the sim pod, as you click on this and it will be available, just that, I don't like it. It feels disconnected. It feels tacked on without.
I agree and I disagree at the same time. Is it really having a PvP mode within the quote-unquote sim pod? Does it feel disconnected? You're technically battling other players inside a simulation where you're kind of simulating combat between one another, and that may grant you XP. I don't know. I don't see the big disconnect there. Horde mode on a specific planet,
no, of course you can have it. You can have it in the sim pod. It's not just it shouldn't be just there.
I think what you're saying is you tie it into the storyline. Hey, so the invasion's halted. We're gonna send your star for 2 weeks to go do one-on-one combat, or hey, we're gonna send you to do some advanced training. I can see where you're sort of going with that, and then it's hey, if you want to do further stuff, you can replay this. We've got it loaded up in the simulator, so go at it. I can sort of see that. Regardless, that's not what we got. We basically got 2 game modes that are locked behind a paywall. And
even Navid's example, that would be locked behind a paywall. It's just that it would be integrated in the.
Yeah. It would be integrated in the campaign, and it will contribute to the
story
and the narration and the flow to the flow.
To research items for your mechs, because it will actually make your end game more, I would say, enhanced. It's having like purchasing a DLC for a game like Skyrim. You might get a legendary item from that story DLC that would be a lot better than the gear that you would normally have in the game for normal like standard playthrough. It's basically standard. It's just what I'm saying is that locking game modes behind a paywall isn't a problem. Implementation of it is a problem. It needs to feel connected to the game that you've purchased. You need to be able to enhance what you've purchased with that.
I partially disagree with you on this, Navid. I feel like it would have been better to put it as a part of like instant action and have it like completely balanced and not dependent
if it's
on,
going
like,
to be in the sim pod, if it's only going to be in the sim pod only and some like a form of like a tacked on mode that's not connected to any of the like the rest of the game, I would agree with you that yeah, of course it should absolutely be free. And what's it called, it actually like at that point it would look like a mod rather than a DLC, because that's how mods do it.
Right now inside the sim pod you can like earn XP from it, and one can make a claim that like if you haven't like leveled all of your mechs, like I haven't, like you can use those like arena modes or horde modes to level
can't
up
you
your mech
I mean
XP.
can't you
can't
already
earn resources from it, but you can earn XP.
I mean
from
that's
it. And
just
yeah,
simpod. That's just simpod.
Yeah,
you can run any of the missions. You can run any like you can run any of the missions and you gain XP, and it's like.
And you do the same thing with like these two modes, and I understand like where PJ was coming from, but once again, they treat this as a game mode, and I understand where you're coming from. I understand that you want those to be better integrated into the mission structure, like placed somewhere in between, and then you do it. It would just like I don't know how they would integrate the PvP mode in there. I can understand maybe how they would integrate the horde mode in it. But,
I mean, they already have co-op in the campaign. The PvP mode is like, yeah, this mission, you click on it, and everyone that's connected as a co-op basically takes a slot of one of your mechs, and when you load into the game, it loads a different game rule, and everyone is on a different team.
Let me chime in on here, because it just sort of hit me. The game is missing something very important. They're going through the campaign. It's missing something to where you can go and not have to replay the same exact missions that you did before. And that's what horde mode is. The game is missing that. That's also where I feel like
playability now.
That's also where the issue is with me is, so it's something the game needed, not, oh, it'd be really nice. The game needs Simpod stuff, and you're charging for it. That shouldn't be charged. Like,
remember asking you this still like long ago before the game was released, if you would be fine with a single player storyline, like you know, game that has like 30-40 hours of playtime and then it's done. And I remember you saying
so yeah,
that.
I still agree with that, but that's not saying that you included a feature. Everything's based around your the skills, your research points, and I don't think it's crazy to say that yes, I agree with what you just said, and 100%. I still think that. But you introduced Simpod. You introduced the idea of skills and pilot skills and research, and you introduced it, not me. Like, if you wouldn't have had Simpod, okay, but you did, and then you based the gameplay and the gameplay loop around going there and getting XP, and now you're asking to charge for it.
Okay, so you basically have a bigger problem with the Simpod as how it integrates like into the game design.
I mean,
like,
it's
even though the game is, like,
there's some
storyline.
Yeah, there's some things in the game that just and again, I went through over this in my review, which is it's redundant. I mean, you have a pilot skill that has to do with turn speed, and then you have a mech mech unlock as well that's turn speed, right? It's like you have a selling equipment it's just one of those things where there's a lot to be added to, and I think that's fine. You come out, you're gonna iterate, the base product's gonna improve, but this is a part that should be part of the base product. Am I crazy in thinking there should be like 8, 10 different things in SimPod? There should be ambushes. There should be whatever it is. And I say this, there should be things in there that help you during the campaign. And this is the general problem I have with the campaign, which is it's mercs. You just aim CT, blow it up. There's no tactics. There's no strategy. There's one mission that sort of puts hey, if you don't get out of there, you got an assault force behind you. Well, guess what? You can still destroy that assault force. There's one mission that has like a time frame on Edu, but there's no tactics. So it's not like you have to learn what an ambush or how to fight out an ambush or how to retreat or how to, bound or there's none of that stuff. It's just click, point, shoot, destroy, click, point, shoot, destroy. That's where I have an issue with the difficulty. The difficulty, by the way, one thing that you brought up that I thought would be cool. Okay, so you introduce Trueborn difficulty. Give me more more salvage for doing that damn thing so I can unlock more stuff, because all you're doing is throwing AI. You're basically allowing AI to shoot me in the CT more and core me out. So, well, then allow me to have the ability to unlock everything in the research thing, and again, all the little improvements in the research lab, I think are pretty standard and fair. But
that's one of the things. But I know it's completely separate of this. But like, I absolutely hate the dice roll aiming that AI has, and I know how like it's handled in a lot of other games where it's not just like a freaking.
Dude, why isn't it?
You can make the AI
why isn't it cone of fire?
Yeah, why is it not a cone of fire? Why doesn't the AI like follow the player and then like he can overshoot or undershoot depending on like the same way like a human would? And you can code that. You can code that in Unreal. You can like a lot of people do it for like FPS games, and yet that's
because it's mercs. Isn't that mercs?
Yeah, I know.
There's just copying it.
I mentioned that in the past.
It's exactly the exact copy. Yeah. I mean, literally, cone of fire behavior is something that every shooter does, and it's a function of like many things. It's like the function of your speed, like the vectorial speed, of course, like and then like I don't know, you can implement like a lot of what's it called, modifiers to it. It's like there's a skill in the game called evasion that every pilot has, that you can upgrade evasion. Do you know how that works?
Just percentage reduction.
I don't know. Like fuck if I know. I don't know what it is. I don't know how that works. What does evasion mean? Like, it says it's less likely for you to be targeted, right?
It's just a dice roll that reduces a percentage somewhere. I can already figure it out.
No, I mean
without even
that percentage. That percentage is like.
But there, so Nami, let me update you on this.
No.
If you're running at the target, there's no evasion. Okay. If you're walking backward, there's no evasion. You have to be running or walking perpendicular to your target. That was clarified by, I believe, Tori in my chat. Yep. So then you stack on evasion on the way to the mech or whatever. But if you don't know that, then, and there's nothing to explain. So, again, it goes back to the like SimPod of like a training thing of like, hey, try to run at an angle, try to go,
Yeah, listen, like I just learned that right now, and because when I read that in the game, and I'm like, okay, so what does this mean? Does that mean I have less chance of being targeted? So if I upgrade all my pilots, then we will have equal chance. We will have equal chance of being targeted, so we cancel each other out. So like, how does this work? And now you're just like saying that, okay, so it's just like the.
There you go. It's vector math.
Like, yeah, it's basically vectorial velocity that determines this. But again, like, why is the enemy not using cone of fire? Why does it have to aimbot my left arm that I'm shielding from?
I've seen that happen so many times with laser mechs. I'm like literally twisting like insane, like moving in the air, like across. And I see a Nova holding like such a perfect burn on my head.
You know what?
Like, I felt like smashing my keyboard at that point. Like, it was really annoying, and I was hoping that the system got changed in Mech 5
Dude, in one of the
missions, separate, yeah.
In one of the missions, I was running a Nova, and I did a jump shot on another Nova, and you could guess like which mission that was. But I did a jump shot on another Nova, and what I saw is that my cockpit in front of my face started glowing green, and I died. And I'm jumping. I'm in the air. I'm like jumping from like a perpendicular to the target even, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was the head aimbot with like 6 medium lasers,
head
like 12 medium
dice
lasers.
roll. It's funny, yeah. The targeting system. Please, Tori, I beg of you, just like talk to them.
Like I'm
make
fine
them change
taking.
it to like
I'm
more
fine.
human-like aim, please.
Yeah,
all they have to do is add drift to it. That's all.
I mean, I'm fine taking 12 ER medium lasers. It's like I'm not fine taking 12 ER medium lasers, but I'm jumping above the target with my cockpit being above the target, and it's just like locking 12 beams to my cockpit. That doesn't even like match well with where the enemy is looking or where the arms
there's
is.
like various different ways like different games handle difficulty. I know this is like completely separate of the discussion that we had, but like regarding the DLC itself. But like you can make like the way that
but anyways,
difficulty
like this,
in games. I know. Just a second. I think I need to mention this is like when you make like both sides kind of a little bit more lethal at the same time, especially like in single player stuff. Okay, you can make the enemies more lethal towards me, but I'm also more lethal towards the enemies. So it's more so you know, you're still like on a balanced level field, or you can spam like a little bit more of them. The things that I hate like for difficulty is when developers just increase the freaking like sponginess of enemies, or like in some other cases like where they increase the dice rolls on you and there is nothing really you can do about it.
Yeah, I mean that's a topic of its own. To wrap up on that DLC, like I feel like there are two things that you need to be discussing here. It's like are you discussing like the DLC in its current form, not changing, this is what we get, or how this is supposed to be priced? Or are you discussing if you're paying for a DLC, what it should be? Because there are two different things.
Yeah, I think if it's SimPod related and it should be completely free. I don't.
If it's only in SimPod, I agree.
Yeah,
it should be free.
Mechs, you want to do mech packs? Do it to your heart's content. You want to do cosmetic stuff? Do it to your heart's content. I don't care about that. But if the arena mode is to help you gain more XP and stuff for the campaign, but also it's a gaping hole in the base game is co-op options for you and your buddies as well, and it's a huge just void. You shouldn't be charged for it, and so I have a problem with that. I have a problem with like the idea of PvP. Granted, they do call it arena mode, but it's just one of those things where it's not PvP, it's not MWO. It's you can have 4 of your buddies join you and you can shoot each other, and there's some other stuff cool. But this should all be free, and especially at the timing. It just I don't think it's acceptable to have this as paid content when your game is missing it so severely. And then on top of that too is like the timing isn't right. It doesn't affect really the campaign, other than what I said, maybe you can unlock a few more things. You want to get people back. The reality of what is going to get people back to playing in number, in mass, and all we have to do is go Mech 5 clans Steam chart is an actual DLC. That's what gets people back. Like a mercenaries here, and here's clans. So this is what gets people back, is a DLC. You come out with an actual DLC, and we're like, okay, now we're popping here. How many people are playing this? Let me see here.
Just type MechWarrior and
there we go. 512.
Show you, like,
so what's going to bring the spike back up to where it was? What was it? I think 5,000 was like peak.
Yeah, but that's normal. That's actually relatively similar to Mech 5 Mercs.
But that's my point though.
Have, like similar launch numbers.
Yeah, but trying to sell this as something that this is this is like an added value, like benefit of like of a thing, you know, like again, especially right now. So like to me, it's like if you come out with another DLC and it's a story and all that, blah blah blah, 6 months, whatever it is down the road, awesome, cool. But this stuff should be 100% free. And I mean, so that's
like, even if this DLC, I'm asking this again, even if this DLC had like storyline content, you still wouldn't
Simpod stuff.
Okay,
yes, Simpod needs to be completely free
with the game modes.
Yes.
Well, what if it was not part of the Simpod? You would still say the same thing.
Yeah. Yes. And by the way, like we could hop on there and do PvP and theorize and craft and do live streams and talk about it like you were doing yesterday. Like, oh, you know what they could do and blah blah blah. It's there's value there, but the value is almost just like the positive marketing PR just from like you doing it, and it's also keeping people in your game. Like, I don't think this will keep people in the game playing a ton. And again, that's just me. It's total, you know, my conjecture because it's just like my opinion or whatever. But like, what brings people back in mass is an actual big fat DLC. Boom, here's a new story, whatever, you're gonna continuation from the end of the game, whatever it is. But this is, when you're doing that, you have more options. So instead of me only doing 30 hours, I just did 50, 60 hours instead. Why? Because god dang, between some of these missions, we went and did horde mode. I got my guys up to like max XP, stuff like that. Why am I having to pay for that?
Okay, so listen.
Okay, just a second, Navid, just a second.
Okay.
Just a second. So you're fine. You basically don't see enough value in this to warrant.
No, it should always. This stuff is that's a word. Supplementing.
Is it the
Both.
principle
Both.
of game modes being always like free for players?
Both. In this game, in clans, both are true. I think it's supplemental content to your campaign.
I ask myself, like, is it a value problem or is it like a principle thing where you want like game modes to be a part of the game? Because that was not the case.
I think that's where we agreed, or that I made a comment of. I think a lot of people, if the price is right, you justify in your head. You may not agree with it morally or ethically or whatever it is, but the price is okay. It's negligible. What's $3.99 for? What's $4.99 for a Steam game? Okay, or whatever, blah, blah, or whatever it is. Let's just say for an item, like for instance, where does free to play come from? Like, oh, it's $1. Okay, yeah, I'll spend that. It's not it.
Because in my head, it's more of a principle thing.
Yes.
Do you like?
It's an industry problem.
The price.
Yes.
The price can be like $2.
Yes, it's an industry problem
like,
that's
it can
capitalizing.
Be like $1 for this.
Free
the thing is like, is the principle having game modes like locked or not?
The free to play model,
or is it not?
Has injected into every single developer out there that the psychological
I don't think that's
needs
necessarily the free-to-play plot.
It started it.
I think this is the live service.
Yes, no, I know, but
more than the quote-unquote free-to-play.
But where did that all start from? It started from the free-to-play because, dude, World of Tanks blew up, MWO is one of them, and then everything else is adapted to that. But it's the idea of the psychological need of those, and that you can extract based on those psychological needs as much money as possible from the consumer. And by the way, there's individuals at PGI that were hired specifically for that, by the way. And that's fair. Cool. You want the best of the best. That's normal.
Like every company,
but my point being is the customer is you're the whale here. Like you're the target of all this unbeknownst to you. And that behavior has evolved and gone forward, and that some devs would look at this and say, no, absolutely, this should be completely free. And then some would be like, well, of course, you spent time on it. Yeah, charge people. And then they have us here going back and forth. Some would validate the dev's position and some would validate my position, which is it shouldn't be. And that's where it's fucked up. That's why I was sort of saying earlier, you have to justify morally, like, if I don't agree with the DLC in this practice right here, I shouldn't buy it at all. Even as an influencer, morally, if I disagree with this as a behavior, I shouldn't do that. That's basically what you're getting at. Is it's an ethical thing of saying, hey, I disagree with this practice, and then the other side of it's going to be like, well, you're going to miss out, you know. And
I can understand like some people not seeing value, like for example, we're taking example is like this DLC. But like it's more for me a matter of principle, like especially like in the case of PGI with like game modes being locked. behind like a paid DLC, which happened a lot of times in the past, like a lot of times. So for me, like in that case, it's a matter of principle. Either it's nothing, or like they can charge whatever price they perceive the value of this to be.
Yeah, I think the game itself plays in the part of why it feels different is because Mercs, you went around. I wasn't hindered. I still had other stuff to do. Whereas this is, if you don't download this, you don't have Horde mode and you don't have PvP mode. Like, at least if with Mercs, I still had the other stuff and I could go romp through the inner sphere and do whatever I needed to do. Like, it was no biggie.
So you think like this cuts you off of like a major part of replayability? And that's why it's
again, I don't think it's a replayability. I think this is a supplement to the campaign. Like, if that's how I look at it, is you'd want it sort of what I can sort of see what Navid was saying is what you could have done is also tied this into the actual campaign, and they showcase this scenario where, hey, we're going to send you to R&R or whatever training for 2 weeks, and then hey, you can if you need to sharpen up those skills, hop into the sim pod or whatever. That's sort of where I look at it. It's supplemental. It's the replayability. The game's not a replayability would be PGI realizing if you made it so that every, like, even the most simple thing is where you change out what mechs are present in the campaign. Like, you don't run into the exact same thing every single replay. Or that, I don't know. Outside of that, I don't really know what else you can do.
That's kind of the part of the Horde system, like within different games, like Space Marine and Darktide have like systems where they
are those free?
Place and behavior. What do you mean? The PV, like
the Horde mode, is that free?
I mean, like Horde mode was quote unquote designed like in mind with Darktide, but yeah, the Horde mode quote unquote in Space Marine 2 is like free, but it launched with the game itself.
Yeah,
like it launched right away. It launched together.
Yeah, probably like
Darktide is a Horde shooter, and so like it has like more in-depth like Horde systems developed in place.
Yeah, and Darktide is not a single player.
NPCs,
yeah,
different kind of NPCs will spawn in different places, will behave like very differently. It actually has a pretty impressive system, like when it comes to that. But I'm just like mentioning this as an example for like.
Can I make a point that I've read, and I think this is 100% valid, and I hate this argument because I think it was Pasha said this earlier. Pasha, correct me if I'm wrong. He said, "Do I want this IP to go away? No, and so I'll continue to buy as best I could." And I fucking hate that position as a fan because I think PGI has done a lot of good things, regardless of what a lot of people think. MWO, so forth and so on. Mercs isn't my game that I want to play, but I don't want that to go away. Hey, they introduced clans. It's got features that I really like. Mainly the cinematics. I mean, to me, it's like, okay, they've stepped up their game for cinematics, but like gameplay wise, it's literally Mercs.
It's very similar to Mech 5 Mercs.
And so
I said that.
I hate that so many fans out there are like, yeah, but if I don't support it, it goes away. And I hate that statement because I feel the pains. And I remember
because it will defend like any decision.
It will, and they'll support any decision.
It will hurt the game.
You'll buy any mech pack. You'll do anything. And so it sort of brings us back to what you said earlier, which is like, if you never hear negative feedback or whatever, and you just base it off sales, like, yeah, some of those fans are literally buying it because there's nothing else. There's no other game developer in this studio. HBS is gone. I think a lot of people, again, if a Battletech 2 happened, a lot of people would be playing that, and so I don't say that for PGI making their decisions. I don't think Russ sits there and like, ooh, they have no other options. That's not what I meant. My point being is, if you don't support it, you're gonna feel guilty as a fan. So do you feel guilty of not, blah, blah, blah. And then also too is low expectations, man. I don't think this is the first title that I felt like we've seen a developer step up quality wise, and that I mainly mean that cinematics and narration and storytelling. And even then, it's not perfect, by the way. I could go through with a scalpel and I have my opinion, this and that, as far as the cinematics. I think they still did a fantastic job though, right? But it's the quality out there. Like, go play fucking Battlefield game or whatever right now. Some of the, like, and you're like, holy shit, the fidelity, the gameplay, and everything like that. And I think a lot of MechWarrior fans want that. Of course, what does that mean? That means you need a bigger studio, maybe more budget, and that's where it comes back down to, you know, it being niche. I know Magic loves that name, that type, but that's my point, though. Is
just say core. Let me remember how they call it. Yeah, dedicated core audience. Dedicated core audience. Yes. Yeah. Yes, I remembered it. Yes, dedicated core audience. There you go.
Yeah.
No use for the N-word, please.
But like, I respectfully disagree that this shouldn't be paid. And like I said, you know, Darren had sent me a code. I injected it, made this tweet, and then I get on today, you know, and last night on Discord and stuff, and I'm being told I'm the only negative one. I'm the only one that's asking questions that doesn't like this. And by the way, it was never brought up that I like the game mode. I think it's dope. A horde mode? Yeah, more please. More. I want more. Come up with some very fucking creative stuff. I want more. But it shouldn't be behind a paywall. This isn't Mercs. This isn't MWO. This is a linear story that you didn't tie any of this into other than just getting an XP. You could, if you put a little bit more time and effort, which, by the way, this was basically a month effort. This was done in a month. It's got a bunch of issues as far as the patch and deal. Again, you're releasing something that isn't even polished out. It shouldn't be a paid product. Now, if this leads to something, a cool idea, I agree with you, Magic. I look at clans as being a test bed for them to do stuff. But that test bed you shouldn't have to pay for. If they come up with some cool ideas for an MWO2, a successor to MWO2, sorry, awesome. Hell yeah. But we shouldn't be paying for it. I'll pay for a DLC that has story and narration and cinematics. Awesome. Handcrafted missions. Not literally you took a mission map, put a bounding box on it, and just, you know, wrote a, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not, this should be, this is a supplemental content to the campaign. It's not its own content. It's not its own, like, you see what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, as I said, I basically summarized it, how I'm looking at it. In its current form, that is only available in the SimPod, it should absolutely be free. Like, no question. Like, if you want to put, actually, like, it's actually quite funny.
Thank you, Ferret. Thank you for the 54 months.
If you want to put the extra mechs as part of the DLC for money, I'm fine. I'm totally fine with that. If you want to make this a mode available in SimPod only, it should be free. And only time I would pay anything for this is if this is integrated into the campaign, and if this actually gives you salvage component, which is like the most valuable thing. Yeah, the most valuable thing that's in the game to research upgrades for weapons. Because there's a finite amount that you can get, because there's a finite number of missions in the game, and there's no other way to earn to get those.
So Forced Be With Me says, geez, there's no replayability at all. You do the campaign twice if you want the full story. After that, the game goes on a shelf. I'm fine with that, but I just dropped $20 for Horde mode that is so damn boring, or that is damn boring and brings zero accomplishment reward to someone who already finished the game. Arenas are well designed, but without any way to matchmake, it will not be played at all by players who have no friends, at least playing in the universe.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as I was saying, is like, if you want this to have a point, you have to insert it inside the campaign and make it so that it's a way for you to earn those, like, most valuable thing in the game, which is salvage components. And it actually makes sense in the context of the story that you have these time skips that you can use for like keeping yourself like ready, and then this horde mode, which actually fits really well within the context of the story, like what you're doing actually on that planet. You're basically suppressing resistance, and if it's slotted in within that, and you could basically use that to skill up, to upgrade your stuff, that that's something that you cannot do, I would actually go back and replay again because I want to actually do a replay that with fully upgraded gear before the final act of the game. So not at $20, by the way. As I said, it's like $7. But if it's just in Simpod, it should absolutely be free.
Barrett, you can't insert the matchmaker into like.
Well, it's not
No
an actual.
matchmakers.
Yeah,
No
there's
matchmaker.
there's no PvP
No
system
matchmaker.
here. It's just literally shoot your friends and that's it. That's again, and it does sort of say that. I mean, in a way, it's like arena, but I don't think like right here it doesn't mention anything about like PvP. It's like test your skills, customize your experience, better SIPCO. You basically can have your friends fight with you.
Like it's not even, it doesn't even need to be PvP. It's like inside the campaign you're like,
yeah.
There's today is training day and we have secured this like base that we can use as an arena, and you go in there and you fight Ezra, you fight Liam, you fight Mia, and everyone is for himself.
It ties it into the campaign, so it actually feels natural of saying, hey, we just landed, we just did our objectives, we completed our objectives, we're gonna have some downtime. Go ahead and do some training, and then it's almost, you know what that feels like too? It almost feels like Mercs, how you'd hit like your level, and then it says go level up more, get your Mercs ready, which is basically like go train more before the next part unlocks, right?
And imagine like you can actually like slot it in like so well within the context of this. You can actually slot in so much banter between Jaden, Liam, Mia. Is like in the context of the arena mode, it's like, yeah, like you think you're like better than me, I'll prove to you that I can take you all on. Like there's so much banter potential just from that in the context of the story. And like if it was something like that, that's the only way I can justify paying for this. If it's in the Simpod, and of course, as I said, for earning salvage components, because that's the only thing that matters in the game.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you for the 38 months.
But if it's just Simpod, it should be free. Right. There's no question.
Yeah, that's right. Force. Yeah. Anyways, guys, MWO doesn't have a matchmaker either, so there's oh man.
Almost.
But I mean, like I said, there's pause. I was watching your stream. I didn't get long because literally, I was wrapping my stream up, and that's when the everything was happening. And so I haven't played it, but it's just one of those things where, it just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean that's I mean I completely agree with what you're saying. It's like
and
arena
the response, like it's inappropriate in this situation. I feel like it should have been like, hey man, I'm sorry you feel that way, or like, yes, this is where we're gonna proceed. Instead, it was like defense mode of like, well, the base game, we've had no complaints about value for money. It's like, yeah, we weren't talking about your base game. Do you
think they didn't expect the negative reception?
I don't know.
It's pretty obvious.
I keep repeating myself.
But apparently I was the only one. That's what I was told. That's what I was told last night.
In the past, locked behind DLCs.
I was told I was the only one that brought a negative.
But magic, like you're ignoring something. There was never a case like this where a DLC was not accompanied with campaign missions.
You mean single player storyline? Yeah, that is an exception. That is an exception.
Like that's
why I asked Phil.
That's literally.
That's why I specifically asked Phil if he would be okay, like with the game mode being locked behind the DLC.
No, I mean game mode.
Had a single player storyline content.
Yeah, I mean like that's two different things. Like game modes being locked behind paywall is wrong. It should be free if it's just
so you were
an option
with it, like for Mech 5 Mercs, like the whole time as well.
No. That's because in that context, of course, I mean it's expensive there, but it was packaged with a campaign inside the game.
Yeah, so that goes back to the
value thing.
Yeah, the value. Well, it's like a side thing of
being behind.
Yeah, you're like
it needs to be.
Yes.
In my opinion,
Yes.
it needs to be separated.
Yes,
Like, it really needs to be separated. The value thing needs to be separated from the principle thing, where like if you're fine with the game modes being locked behind the DLC,
hold on,
or you're not fine with the game modes being locked behind the DLC. Now the value portion is like separate.
Listen. Hold on. The beachhead mission type, it was free. The game mode of the DLC was free update. The only part that you got from the DLC was the campaign missions.
There you go.
Are you talking about the beachhead?
Yeah, I think
I'm talking about like the last. I'm pretty sure Solaris.
Solaris, I don't have much experience with the Solaris because I played it once and I didn't really pay attention.
I remember
much
like
attention
certain base systems, like the upgrade system, being locked behind the DLC as well.
I don't know if that's the case. That shouldn't.
That's the thing. That's the thing that I'm talking about, and like one of the reasons why PGI didn't see it as
what
a
I
problem,
remember,
like
what I remember
behind it.
Because what I remember in the past, I think they had a DLC that introduced.
Which one you're talking about?
I don't remember which one. There's so many.
They list free content. They show it.
Yeah, which what's it called? Which DLC introduced Beachhead?
That's what I'm trying to find out. I can't remember.
I think it's the Heroes of the Innisphere. It's the first one. That's the beachhead. But I'm trying to remember here. Yeah, I can link it below.
It's like there are two things. Like there's like Legend of Kestrel Lancers, and then there's like Heroes of the Innisphere.
I am pretty sure Heroes of the Innisphere is like the one that introduced like beachhead. I'm linking.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
Just click on the link in chat. That's the first one. It shows it linked there. I don't know, but I think it is.
Yeah, but if it's not mentioned in the DLC description that it was part of the free update, and I'm pretty sure it was part of the free update because
they started doing that later with some of the other ones that could have been like part of the free update, but like I guarantee it for some of the other DLCs.
Yeah,
like you can see the features being separate.
Yeah, I don't know if Solaris was like this, but I'm pretty sure the game mode of Beachhead was free update for everyone. And the DLC part was basically the campaign mission. The campaign missions that also used the Beachhead
Yes,
stuff.
this is because this is Beachhead. This is when we did it was me and some of the other streamers did the video. Yeah.
Yes.
And my main critique after when I was playing it solo was like, you can't issue commands and then fast forward to clans is when we got the battle grid revamp. So
yeah. Anyways, like as I was saying, it's like the game. If you're selling a game mode, that's by principle wrong. Like if you're already, it's like let's look at it this way. Like if you've already made this, and the maps are already there, and you've like made the framework, and you actually made it so that people who haven't paid for this can actually join others and enjoy this mode without paying. Like, I don't see the justification for a price on a game mode like this if it's not part of the campaign.
Then that's the principle. That's the principle of like game modes not being locked behind.
Yeah.
It's like if it's like
I'm just pointing out that was already done in Mech 5 Mercs.
Yeah, but I think Navid has got a point though. It was accompanied by a wider thing. There was actually like a new campaign, and yes and no. It's more of like hidden and attached. So you're like, it goes back to the principle of things. Yes, but I think that's where most people also. You could still roam around the inner sphere, like you could still do your thing. This adds literally none of that. Like this only adds this, and that's it. Like,
and so that's why I'm bringing up the like integrating it into the campaign, because like you cannot justify adding like a game mode in the Simpod, which is basically an afterthought in the context of MW5, in the context of clans. You like, oh my god, there's like this arena mode and horde mode. Like there is no better way of having these modes other than putting it in a clan campaign. the potential is endless. If you put this,
disagree with you, Navid, but
I mean, if you put this in as part of a campaign inside the game, it's like extra missions inside the game, like within that downtime period. You can challenge your lance mates. You can challenge commanders on the base. You can challenge stuff. Someone in the chat says you can rematch Mia versus.
So in Dragon's Gambit, it has 3 game modes that were introduced, and they're all free.
Yes.
Yeah, they did introduce like free game modes as well.
What was that? Meta?
That in the past.
I was gonna say, can you imagine if like the trials at the beginning, you had co-op opportunities there where you're fighting each other instead of it just being you have to go through the single player.
Oh, you mean for Solaris?
What I'm saying is that you can only justify a DLC that includes game mode. By the way, what I'm saying is like if you do this DLC, put it as part of a campaign that enriches the campaign in a way. But the price that you pay is for that campaign part. The game modes that you're going to be putting in the sim pod is going to be free. Like imagine this, like you sell a DLC and let's say you don't buy the DLC. You go into the game, your campaign is going to be the same as ever, but now if you open the sim pod, you will see the new game modes, right? That you can play just like if you buy the DLC right now. But if you buy the DLC, your campaign will have extra stuff in it, in those like specific time periods that will give you content, in-game valuable content, and extra.
You're literally describing the DLC option for Mercs. Really, that's what you're describing. You're describing an additional campaign that if you buy it, it'll add on to your experience, and then the game modes are just there, which would be the sim pods. You're describing what they did with Mercs.
Literally, yes.
Literally what they did. The difference being is this has no story. This has 2 game modes, 12 of hero mechs, and then this, and they're asking you to. That's a DLC. Again, going back to they didn't even follow because they didn't follow their own recipe.
The funny thing is that this part that is being sold for $20 is the free part of the DLCs for Mercs. It's like the free part of the DLCs.
Thank you for pointing that out. It's 100% true. Yeah, it is 100% true.
Is this? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think we came full circle where. Yep. I didn't pick that up until now.
I gotta check it, but I'm pretty sure like there were game modes that were locked behind DLCs in the previous game.
Yeah, maybe you're right, but that's what I had in mind. Like that's
they did.
That was what I was.
Career mode. Well, career mode was.
I went through some of them. For example, the one called Worms, for example, where they gave you those. Just remember if it's like instant action stuff.
Deslock says, okay, all this aside, this has been released. It does cost $20 and it is locked. All that is left now is what? What does everyone expect to happen now? Voice my opinion, voice my displeasure. And if you, based on that knowledge, basically what Magic and Navid are saying is like, based on the knowledge that you have now, if you don't agree with it, then the idea would be me as a customer, I'm not, or I am going to purchase it based on that information. And, you know, it's like, it's the messed up thing. It's like phones, man. It's like, well, if you know this is built by slave labor and I'm against slavery, but I need an iPhone, or do you really need I'm going to buy the iPhone. So are you saying you are okay with slave labor over in, you know, like, it's like, well, no, well, you just bought the iPhone knowing that it's slave. I'm not, by the way, I'm not conflating fucking PG to slave. My point being though is like, yeah, sorry, that's wrong. I redact that. My point, yeah, call it shrimp, whatever other industry. That's not fair. So, my point being is, if you know you don't morally agree with a company's, whatever it is, a company's stance on something or a product that is, you know, the fur trade or whatever, you don't believe in fur coats because you don't believe in, you know, animals or whatever it is, then just don't buy it. That would be the thing. Looks at your iPhone and cries. It's all funny because we all know it's true, but yet here we are. Again, that value magic. That's funny how that works. So the principle of stuff. And by the way, if PGI is listening, I wasn't conflating you to fucking slave labor. So
we'll go blood diamonds instead.
Blood diamonds, okay.
Yeah, like in my eyes, it's really just it's either the principle or the value.
I don't
know.
What do you think PGI should do? Do you think PGI should refund and just be like, yeah, actually, we've listened. The reviews, I mean, apparently I'm not the only one here. Apparently I wasn't the only one. Apparently Magic was talking about this a few days ago, but he didn't send this.
I was talking about the problems that it could like produce for people, and a lot of people in chat were also talking about like, is this gonna be paywall content? It's a little bit weird for PvP to be paywall content.
But here's the thing, Magic.
I mentioned that they treat it as a game mode,
not
as a separate PvP.
If I wouldn't have tweeted this out, and we wouldn't be having this, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, actually, I think we would have still had this conversation because I wanted to talk, but like
it's very unfortunate that this is how like the initial reception of like the first PvP like option in a in a client game was.
There was a lot of things going on, because when they announced this, I was actually seeing people posting screenshots of some Reddit posts. Like people are like, yes, like finally MW and all the toxic community in it can go die in a fire. We will have our glory in MW5.
Where was that?
It was in some Discord servers, and I'm like, oh my god, these guys don't know.
Well, no, I saw Reddit. I saw a Reddit post about that.
And then what's it called? In the official Discord for MechWarrior 5, people are like, okay, so where's the server browser? Like, where's the matchmaking and the queue? Like,
That's the funniest thing. I never expected them to do
like where do I need
browsing
to
or matchmaker. Exactly.
Yeah, where
I
do
knew
I
it
need
was
to
gonna be a
up?
play with friends experience.
Yeah, where do I need to queue up? And I'm like, okay, so when you see these things coming up, you know that you've marketed the wrong things, because this.
You know what it comes down to.
Basically, saying people got the wrong impression.
Let me get this. I'm not your champion, if you will. Like, I'm not the good guy here. I'm not sticking it to the man or anything. I'm not gonna claim any of that. But I think it's one of those things where when I asked this question, the ball's in his court, not mine. Obviously, I triggered a nerve just asking a question like this. How ballsy of me. Sorry, I'm being a little bit snarky there. But the reality of it is it's just like my last podcast. I'm going to ask you questions. How you answer it is on you. If you don't like the question, and if I'm not being cynical, if it's a critical question, and the answer we got is yes, Simpod game modes is going to be behind paywalls. So now is the reaction, well, they just, they're in the wrong. We'll just keep doing what we're doing. The sale will continue. Could it be that PGI changes the way? Maybe. I don't know. Is there I don't think is the thing on fire right now? I don't think these things are on fire. It's not the end of the world. You don't have dude, fucking Doom and Gloom was like MWO days when like Reddit and the Brown Sea was just on fire. The skill tree fire, the nerfs to, like the unfunding of MWO was like legit holy shit negative stuff.
I remember all that.
So this isn't that, but it's just the question of if no one speaks up, if no one,
thing is,
I don't know what happens.
The thing is that I'm going to be afraid of, and I think like people will understand this. Like PGI will get this as a lesson that people do not want game modes to be monetized, and they're gonna come away from this that they will not try to develop like new game modes at all. They will just focus on single player storyline content, which like people might completely be fine with, and that's fine. But like most of their developer time will go into that instead of trying to actually develop something that may like provide a good baseline for the next upcoming and some experimentation with game modes. I think it's sorely needed in like even in mercs, even in clans, like mission types, and like it just like fucking it hurts me that there is so much conundrum over this that they'll once again get the wrong signals and maybe react in a way that they shouldn't react. Like it's all I want to say. Like it's so, because I had fun like playing 5-player free-for-all. I had fun in that. I played it yesterday. Legitimately, I had fun. Like I circumvented the balance problems by basically giving everyone stock builds and Pepega builds that takes like really long time to kill, and we had fun. Like horde mode, it's like relatively basic, but considering that there's like infinite waves, I see a possibility of one just going through and trying to get that, you know, max wave count, and I can see myself doing that. How long is that gonna hold me? I gave you like a rough example, like maybe 70 hours or so, something along the lines of that. But that's the thing. Like if PGI gets burned here, I can almost guarantee you what they're going to do.
But we're not, but the bad thing is we're not talking about the mode.
Just a second. They're going to retreat back behind single player storyline content and mech releasing, and that's gonna be it.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
They're not gonna even bother iterating.
But the statement should be, no, you're on the right track, but this shouldn't be a paid thing. Like, that's so simple of an answer.
Do you think they're gonna go through that? Do you think like the most of the feedback is gonna be that concise and like point them in that direction?
I mean, if it needs to, I literally can make a post. I'll literally do that right now. You guys tell me what to put and say, look, you know, video, like, hey, you guys are on the wrong track, but I do not, like, that's what this whole thing is. Like, this entire discussion here has been about,
and like I said,
we like what you've done.
I will hear PGI tried to do PvP and it didn't work, so it shouldn't be like in the next game. Or like PGI tried to do horde mode now and it didn't work, so it shouldn't be in the next. Basically like literally shooting something itself in the foot in like 0.1 version of implementation.
You're holding yourself hostage on this one.
Yeah, but
I might be.
Yeah,
I might be.
I don't see that, because it's like, no, your mode is cool. But why are we having to pay for it?
That's the value proposal, I guess.
I think it's the industry that he talks about. That's there. I mean, and maybe yes, Mercs had to do with that, but like, you should have been like, actually, no, this should just be free. Like, I can't believe anyone at that company didn't be like, yeah, this should be free, right? You know, okay, Hero Mechs, maybe not, but
we all want PGI to succeed.
What was the release date of the game itself?
September was the first, and then moved to October 16th.
Yeah, October 16th. So it's about a month between the game release and this one. And given, like, let's say like a week or two for testing and QA before it goes out.
Look, so we just solved what you pointed out. We literally just solved the thing. Everything in this DLC is free in the Mercs. Everything.
Yes.
Except for we're not getting a story-driven experience, if you will, X amount of missions.
And in certain DLCs, like game modes were not free, but okay,
sure,
I can concede that in some DLCs,
so
game modes
they're asking you to pay for that now, with no thing. So, and if it's to bring people back to the game for the holidays to play, or is it? Again, I brought this up. Is it because the EG7 numbers were low because you did have to launch a month later? And in that case, which again, I don't think this is greed. I think they legitimately probably said, oh, you know, it'd be really cool if we had more Simpod stuff and blah, blah, blah. Okay, roger that. But whoever's decision it was, whether it's, and the reason I pointed out Russ in this is the buck stops with him. I can't ask EG7. Apparently, Russ is the one who makes the decisions. So the decisions are him. He's the one to answer that question, which is, why are we paying for content that was previously not paid for? And then the follow-up response is, you can expect PGI to continue generous free updates and industry-leading DLC sharing among co-op mates. The problem I have with that is generous. It's like, yeah, see, we're giving you all this free stuff. Like, like I said, yeah, I just so anyways, as far as what happens now, nothing happens right now. It's up to them, I guess. I mean, I don't know. If I do know one thing. I do know EG7 looks at these fucking reviews. I do know EG7 will look at Clans DLC and the what people are expecting here. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you they look at here and mostly negative. This is a big deal to developers and publishers, right? This right here, this is a big deal. 25%. You know, like mostly negative, you know, like, okay, again, and his first statement was on here, well, no one was complaining about the value money with 20. Yeah, we're not talking about your campaign. No one's talking about that. It's this that we're talking about. What are you talking about? Like, and where's this at? Oh, mostly positive. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a good review of it. As far as a metric, I think it's mostly positive. And I think, you know, Winner said it yesterday where he says this is probably one of the best MechWarrior titles, even though I know people are nostalgic about Mech 2 and Mech 3, and there was a lot of cool things with Mech 3 and Mech 2 just because of where it was in the time. But yeah, it's probably true. But what does this have to do with complaints about value for your money with a single... Like, this should all be value for your money, where we used to get this for free. Well, we had to pay for it, but it used to be free once this came out. So yeah, I do have a problem with it, and I don't think you should have to pay for this. And yes, it's only $20, guys. I get it. But you shouldn't have to pay for this that used to be free. And the value is getting me to come back to your game and play it. And me, by I meaning you guys, everybody else. It doesn't have the same, it doesn't add replayability to the game. It doesn't have the replayability like Mercs. This has replayability. This does not. So you're asking people to pay for something that doesn't have replayability. And even though it may be cool, which it is, and I agree with Magic, just watching them, it shouldn't be behind a paywall. You know what you go into and you roll into Thanksgiving to Christmas time frame? Free shit. Why do you think they do the loot bag event around that time? And they give free mechs away. How many mechs? They give through the loot bag, and then also the 2 free mechs usually they do a year. Why? Because you want people coming back to your game. Are you coming back for this? I mean, I guess, you know, if you paid for it and you went in here, but there's a few people in here that have said they're asking for a refund after they played, you know, so.
I paid for it. I actually knew that this was going to be a problem, and I know I said earlier, and I paid for this, like, even though I knew I was going to receive a free copy. But I paid for this for a specific reason, because I want to see PGI develop like this further. I understand the people that have the problem with like game modes being locked behind a paywall as a principal thing. I even understand the value aspect of people thinking that this is like too much to ask, like from the value perspective. But I want to see PGI experimenting with both PvE and PvP modes.
Agreed.
And if they can expand this in the future, that's a benefit for everyone.
Agreed.
Like
but I don't think we should pay for it. I don't think we should pay for the testing of that.
How's Stockholm right now, Magic?
Say again?
How's Stockholm right now?
Oh, wait, you're asking me if I have a Stockholm? Not really. I think I see a little bit further past like what a lot of people are you know, seeing here.
Yeah, but what you're saying is you want. Okay, what I feel like is, Magic, I concede everything you were saying. I agree with some of it. I don't agree with others. You're wanting this to succeed, the PvP aspect, because what you're doing is your fear is that if it doesn't, then PGI is going to do what they did in the past, and then you're putting yes,
0.1,
but that doesn't. So that is shifting. I think, at least me personally, how I like it's shifting your perspective a little, because what you're wanting this to succeed. And I'm not saying you're ignoring the other stuff,
you're right,
but you are
right.
shifting a little bit because you're like, oh man.
You are
right, dude. You know me.
To some extent
I want a PvP game too. Like I want that. Like, but the fact of the remains is
it's gonna
like,
be really funny to have this discussion like a
year from now. Yeah.
It's going to be really funny to have this discussion a year from now. But I know like people are not looking that far. But
Yeah, but I can't make my decision. No, I cannot. I still can't support that then. If that means, Phil,
I understand.
if you, because that's a principle thing. That's principle then. It's like, well, if you can't see the forest through the trees, it's like, no, that's not fair. It's like, that's acceptance of this behavior for a potential.
In principle, you're completely correct. You shouldn't be paying for the quote unquote the potential. Like I actually completely agree with that statement. However, knowing what I know, like, it's gonna year from now, I guarantee you, like I already know what to expect. Like I knew what to expect before this came to be, like why it was done the way it was done, and now I think I can expect what's gonna happen like a year from now.
They should have sold this as an add-on supporter pack rather than as a DLC with
I wonder if it's just the wording. I wonder if it's just the wording. I wonder if it's just the price. Like I don't know. They could have done, like, technically the way I would have done it. Like this is how I would have sold like those hero mechs and like shown all the custom new like camos and whatnot, and maybe like something else to tie it in, maybe like a small single player mission for maybe like one of those mechs, and just call it an add-on, and then release like the quote unquote the arena mode and horde mode as a free update game. That's how I would have. But they haven't, because like they did this stuff in the past and they thought it's fine. Just this time around they don't have like a single player story content attached to it, and people are having problems like from the value wise and from like how should I put it, like principle wise, in terms of like game modes being locked behind that content. But like I'm saying, like this, I guarantee it, I can almost guarantee it, is gonna give PGI the signal that they shouldn't develop game modes. They should just focus on single player storylines, and that's exactly what you're going to get. And like this is gonna remain in the V0.1 implementation.
Yeah, but you can't fix that though, man. That's like saying like then that's a fundamental problem with the studio. If that's what they take out of that, you're not gonna fix that by throwing money at them. Like if right now, if someone is listening, and by the way, I have seen Matt was in here and Darren was in here earlier. Don't know if they are anymore. Doesn't look like it. I think Tori, no, he's not even here. So like it's actually, no, he's here. So it's one of those things where if you can't legitimately listen to critique and take that and decipher, are we good here? Do we need to make any changes? Okay, yes, no, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm not saying you have to listen to like me or Magic or Navid, but like if your ultimate decision is to like, well, fuck like, no, we're going our way, screw that, we're just not gonna, that's fundamental shit with the developer and the company. Like you can't fix that. I can understand the fear, but I'm not spending $20 to maybe possibly in the future that the company does the X, Y, or Z. You can't change that.
I agree.
I can't do that.
I agree. I know exactly, but damn, I'm fucking going to enjoy that discussion like a year from now. I know I am.
Yeah.
If they released this like 4 months down the road and called it like a mod tool support pack, and it gave you access to the mod tools when those go live, and then they basically gave you all these templates to go off of and make your own mods off of, would that have been a lot more palpable?
I don't think people would have developed like this. It took a while for even like such a mod to be developed for Mercs.
Yeah, mod tools should be free.
Really get a lot of that buzz, but yeah, mod tools is something that they did talk about like releasing at some point down the line, and I do like kind of hope that once those become available, people will be able to experiment a little bit more with this now that some of the systems are in place to facilitate it. But we'll see how that goes. And I kind of agree with Tori, like who said that most of this rant is of little value to me as a designer. I just want to know what people dislike about the mode itself. I agree. I want to talk about like future modes. I want to talk about like new game mode designs like that you can have in place for both like Horde and maybe some kind of PvP, or like the system that I mentioned like earlier, where you can have like two players on the other side controlling like a star of mechs.
But do you know what feels not fun is talking about that and then knowing you're gonna have to pay for it, like and like I said, it's not like it flows with the game. It's not a part of the campaign. It's just this like side thing that's only there for XP and just fun. And that's where I'm saying is like as it expands, you almost
community needs to decide as a matter of like either principle or value, like either one or the other. Like if it's fine or not. Hello there. Hello.
Yeah, that's a mech. Can you say mech? Yeah, mech. Yeah. Yeah, are you having fun? Yeah, can you say hi? Hi. Can you wave? Hi. Yeah. Is that Mimi? Is that Mimi? Mwah.
Puppy.
Oh, puppy. Yeah, that's definitely a puppy on the screen. 100%. That's a light. Yeah, it's bright, and that's a light. Where's the light? Is that light? Yeah, light. Right? Oh, you ready to get down? Yeah. Okay. Love you. Bye-bye. Oh, thank you. Shut my door. Thank you. Watch your hands. Be careful. Bye. Bye, management. Bye. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I mean, just to sum it up, as I was saying, like community as a whole needs to decide, like if it's fine, like having game modes behind like a paywall and letting PGI design game modes, and then have those game modes be behind a paywall. If that's not okay, people should communicate it like very clearly, because we've seen examples in the past where that was done. And like, or if it's a value thing, then they also need to communicate it clearly and say that that needs to be like, I don't know, a lesser of a price. But people need to decide, and the problem is it's going to be different for different people, and I'm not sure if consensus can be reached on,
you know,
on this thing.
Look, and I'm not asking you guys to be an echo chamber. We have a poll going up. Let me know what your thoughts are. Should, you know, game modes be behind paywall and Simpod? Pretty simple question. You've got 115 people here. Granted, I know there's some people over on YouTube, another 50. But this is just a poll up on Twitch. And like I said, I know a lot of you guys, look, you don't have to agree with me. Like, I don't want you to, like, if you don't feel this way, I mean, you don't have to.
Yeah, but the question, do
Yeah,
you
I don't think
expect
it's, like,
anybody
formulated.
to really press yes on such formulated question?
Yeah,
It's not like you're going to find out who they are. Like,
you
it's
can.
total anonymity.
I think you can.
No, it's not that. You just formulated the question like, how do you like killing babies? Yes or no? Well, not many people will press yes. Maybe Magic or Navid, because you know they are assholes. But
This is the best a $5 purchase. Yeah, like I said,
I think there's a line for everything. Like if they added some sort of resource management thing where you have, you know, supply chains out in space, they basically add a game within a game that you have to do. I think people would pay as that being its own thing.
It's a thing of like value versus like principle in mind. Like it's really just that. Principally, are you?
yeah, but principally, you're,
game
you know,
modes being behind a paywall, or if you're fine with game modes being behind a paywall, it's just the value that's the problem.
It really depends on what the game mode is. Like if it can work as its own standalone thing or not.
Okay, let's say that this is what it is. Like what you got with the DLC. Is it a value or is it a principle problem?
like right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With what's out right now, like I've already
what's
been
on
on
right now.
statement that even if they had single player campaigns attached to it, I wouldn't be for it.
You think it's both? Okay, I think that's fair. You can say that it's both War Boss as well, but it's it has to be at least like one of those.
I feel like, and again, it's not PGI exploiting people's wants or desires, but you know, it's like one of those, like, you could be like, okay, if it was priced at $10, would you do it? And again, it goes back to that psychological want and desire of a fan base of saying, okay, hey, we can't sell this for 20. There's really not there, but we'll have it low enough to where it'll overcome the, you know, position of, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where it goes back to the principle of something. The principle of it.
That's the. I think I hit it right in the bullseye. Like I know I'm repeating myself. It's either the principle or it is the value. Like, if this was like $1, would it be okay with you? And if people say yes, then it's not the principle.
But then, but then, yeah. Well, it could be no. I think it's both. I think my principles can be massaged to where like and also too is there's the if okay, so if Darren didn't get me that code, and having this conversation, should I as an individual buy it, or should I as a business decision buy it to showcase to my viewers, right? But if I fundamentally disagree, which I do, with this being behind a paywall, I shouldn't buy it, right? Which means from a business perspective, I miss out on that. But that's what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to stand your ground and say like, yep, I can't get behind this. And so what sucks with that, and so from a content creator standpoint, you could be missing out on thousands of dollars. Like, what if you started creating content on YouTube based on this? What if you know, streaming? You'd be missing out on all that.
That's not the most people. That's just you personally.
Yeah, but I'm saying from a business perspective. Aspect. Yeah, so I have a personal, then you have the business aspect, and it's like, yeah, I just fundamentally disagree where, you know.
Yeah, I don't look at this from my perspective. I look at this from like the player-based perspective. Like, I'm just, that is it a value or is it a principle? I think both can be valid. I'm just curious as to what it is.
Yeah, I mean, again, you go to, I mean, even Solaris, you had all the voice lines of Duncan Fisher. There's something there. There, you know, new chassis. Okay, new missions.
That's the single player content that was attached to the DLC itself.
Right. And then new mech variants and new weapons and, you know,
and you
free updates.
Able to access that new arena mode if you were not
I agree.
The DLC, which
and
was
then
a locked mode behind the DLC.
Yeah. But I think, generally speaking, because I think we've come to the conclusion that I think a lot of people look past that because all the other stuff.
That's the value.
Yes. Yes. So
it does kind of intertwine with
one
another.
I think it's both. Yeah.
People need to have it like a little bit more clear in their head.
Because if you take a stance of, well, I'm not going to support that basically means out, and it's not fun being on the outside, especially if your buddies are playing it. And if you're a BattleTech fan and this is all you have, I mean, legitimate. And this is where I say it sucks to be in the position of like fans of like, well, you know, if it goes away, like if I don't support it, it even goes away too. I hate that stance because it puts the onus on like the community saying, well, guys, you know, this is the issue I used to have. Remember a few years ago when I may have drunkenly called Russ or texted him late at stream, but it was like, what do we have to do, right? We're buying your mech packs. We're doing this. Why aren't we getting more support for MWO, right? And it's like, we're doing our part, right? But like, where's the, you know, reciprocation, if you will, you know, of that. But horse armor, dude, that got me, not gonna lie. But
I think the thing I hate about this most is that it feels like they are aware of issues with the vanilla game and they're patching it with a $20 DLC.
Yes. That's why I was saying it's a hole in the base game that this is desperately needed in SimPod, and yet now I'm being charged extra. So it's basically like you paid
the hole a little bit more carefully. Is it not just replayability, or is it something else?
Well, say again.
For me,
can you describe the hole? Like how would you?
Well, remember how I said is the SimPod is there, like the idea of leveling up your pilots, and so in the SimPod you can redo the missions and get extra XP for hitting these milestones and stuff like that. So they tied the SimPod into a campaign progression, if you will, or at least experience. But then you get to the SimPod and there's I could probably pull it up. There's like the shooting range and like you just whatever. There's nothing there. And it's blank.
Yeah, you can still replay the missions, so you don't think that's sufficient. Right?
There's this whole,
a hole in that.
Yeah, and also just from the co-op standpoint, like if you can get your buddy, like dude, Friday night, hey, let's get together, let's have a few beers, hop on and do this, and oh shit, dude, there's a really fucking fun game mode. Again, Tori, please, for the love of God, take the idea. Do a Living Legends Conquest. It's your team versus AI, and have tanks, VTOLs, fobs, capture points. Go ahead and mock it up, but have it where it's just you and your buddies, and make that experience. You're gonna make Magic fucking happy or shit. You're gonna make me. You're gonna make a ton of MechWarrior fans happy, and then you know what? Sprinkle in, some. Then that's where I think they should open up a small section of PvP in the front screen, if you will, and that should be free, and then you can attract players, because there's going to be people that have MWO that have not bought Mech 5 because there's really no value there from the PvP standpoint. They're like, look, I'm good, blah, blah. Anyways, my point being that Living Legend Conquest game mode could be a Simpod thing where you and your buddies hop on, and for hours you're playing fucking Mech 5 clans and you're having a great time. But right now there's nothing like that other than just the campaign. And guess what? We've already played it. Like we're good. We've already literally replayed. So the arena mode should again be free. Like make as many game modes like this as possible. Make them super fun. If you want to. I mean, I think it's cool if they did the integration in the campaign like Navid brought up. I don't think they're gonna do that. I think that's, I won't say too much work, but they're already working on whatever the next actual DLC is.
If those were to be done, it wouldn't be taking like only 2 weeks for this. It's like it would take a lot more time for something like that to be implemented.
Pasha, Pasha says, Phil, remember MechWarrior Dark Age board game? I bought into that and spent around 3,000 for plastic crack. No one plays that anymore, and I'm stuck with boxes I can no longer use. I would hate having spent what I have on MWO to be put in the position again, mainly because that means I'm truly gullible for a second time. Yeah, Pasha, but I'd push back on that, man. I don't think you're gullible at all. I think what you're doing is you're attaching a digital product that what you're paying for is playing the game. It's like having a hobby. Do you have the same feeling if you go paintball or shooting a gun? No. Like you don't.
It's more of a fear of like digital goods disappearing.
But that's it.
Yes. The game going away.
Yes, that is a
less
problem.
Of a thing of like looking at like the value for the time.
But you can't. Okay, so but even taking that though, let's go down the road here. I mean, you have to understand that this is not infinite. Like the player numbers will eventually go away because of the next game comes out, because maybe the next game doesn't come out and everybody moves on. This is finite. So if you're going to be upset about that it goes away sometime, you might as well start, preparing yourself, because it's going to happen. Is it going to happen this year? No. Is it going to happen next year? Probably not. But we have declining numbers. Like that's just a fact. So like I get your issue there, but that game will go away. And even if PGI says, okay, numbers are so low, we just need to move everybody to solo queue and there's no matchmaking, there's nothing we can do, just have fun with what it is, which is sort of, I mean, right now we still have groups, we still have enough, in the queue where there's been some finagling with groups, tonnages, okay, roger that. But eventually this game is no longer going to be played by the masses. I think there's around 20,000 people that play this in a month, numbers wise, not concurrently. So
yeah, CCU is a different thing.
So
it's like people who log in and play like 10 matches.
You're not gullible for dude, the amount of money spent on MWO to the amount of, again, perceived value. Go play paintball, dude. I love shooting. 500 rounds of 5.56, $230 right now, $230. And I think it's, I know I'm repeating myself again, but I think like people look at it as digital goods and less of a, value for time. Like they don't look at it at going to like, I don't know, someplace and experiencing something for that time and then paying for that. They see it as I paid for this specific thing.
like this amount of money, and I want that to remain like as it is for as long as possible.
Yeah, but there's
like,
no
the year is,
logic
like,
in that.
year long,
There's literally no logic in that. Because your requirement for that requires other people being there.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I understand the reasoning. If that was like my concern, then how I would approach games, or most games, is that I would buy them on GOG so that like the copy is always with me, that no one can take that copy away from me, so that I can always play it. But it doesn't, unfortunately, apply to multiplayer games that live or die depending on how well they're supported by the rest of the, you know, people who are playing it. Like,
think of it as an investment in your time, Pasha. I look at it as, I think if you've spent money on PG or like MWO, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Also, when this game goes away, that's not a problem, in my opinion. I don't think you're gullible for doing it, because you got to think, you playing this game has also led to mercs being developed, has also led to clans being developed, and then whatever comes after clans. Like it all.
And the game is like 12 years old. Like at this point, many games that even from AAA developers that have like even more like well, I would say like even more predatory monetization system do not survive this long, and people like waste like more money in them. It's a discussion for like a different day, I guess, but when something comes to like a 12-year mark, like almost regardless of how much money you have invested into it, like I think that's a pretty respected.
Now,
like
if you were irresponsible with your money, and that's more of the issue where you're internally looking at yourself, that's something else. But you know, only you can answer that one. But
you can also only answer that like your value for time. Value for time, and not necessarily like digital goods that permanently stay with you. If that's the worry, then you also have to approach like games very differently, and you can't approach like multiplayer games in that way. You can approach a single player game in that way, definitely.
There's always so many unknowns with things. Like, didn't Steam just recently have an update to its stuff for publishers?
For season passes, yes, and that's a good thing. It's gonna benefit the player base, but
I wonder
away from being scummy with the season passes and like DLC practices, and some people even did like a comparison between different companies, seeing like which companies comply with the new season pass standards and which ones do not, because there was a lot of that happening in the past, and then companies not delivering because the product itself either under-delivered or like something else unforeseen happened. So they're trying to, you know, like protect the user base as much as they can, which is a really good like consumer protection move by Valve. I do welcome it.
Yeah, Norwal basically says he hasn't spent a dime. He's got 350 hours. Mr. TB is investing like since like 8 years ago. Yeah, led one, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think everybody's got their different perspective, but
ultimately money is the one that talks.
But yeah, anyway, I think this was a really good and healthy discussion.
Should I upload this to YouTube, the entire thing?
Up to you. Up to you. But I think like a lot of good points were carried over, and like a lot of different perspectives, and yeah, I'm glad I had this conversation.
Thank you, Magic. Thank you, Navid.
No worries.